Welcome to civic guests, faith leaders, friends from so many different parts of Rudi's life. Lord Lieutenant, High Sheriff, Deputy Lord Mayor of Bradford, Mayor of Kirklees, Bishop Nick, Rabbi Douglas Channing, and so many others. In these COVID times, please forgive us for keeping all the doors open and encouraging good ventilation. And if at any point you feel unsafe, we encourage you to move around the building to a place where you do feel safe. It's very important. This brochure, which is on your chair, is a gift to you to take away. Please cherish it and share it. It also includes our order for this afternoon's celebration on the inside front cover. And when we begin shortly, that will continue without any announcement. At the end, if you haven't already seen the Kahilla exhibition on the side here, you're very welcome to come and have a look. Black and white photographs, a number that include photographs of Rudi, all taken at the synagogue by Nudrat. Everybody's encouraged to remain for refreshments at the end, but with this number of people in the building, we do have to have a bit of a system about that. And I encourage you, if you would like tea, to go up this aisle, to get tea from the hatch. If you'd like coffee, to go up this aisle, and to get coffee from the table at the side. There are biscuits in the middle, and as soon as you've got your tea and coffee, please come back into this space because there isn't enough room for everybody at that end. I hope that's clear. But the point is to enjoy the refreshments. They're part of our celebration today. There is a photographer, official photographer around in the building, and I hope that that's all right. And we do have a live stream audience online as well. Without further ado, let us celebrate Rudi Leavor's significant, long life with Bradford Cathedral Choir.
This poem was composed by Shin Shalom, an Israeli poet who died in 1990 and has been reproduced in the Reformed Synagogue prayer book and was one of a favourite theme for Rudi in his interfaith dialogue. Ishmael, my brother, how long shall we fight each other? My brother from times bygone, my brother, Hagar's son, my brother, the wandering one. One angel was sent to us both. One angel watched over our growth. There, in the wilderness, death threatening through thirst, I, a sacrifice on the altar, Sarah's thirst. Ishmael, my brother, hear my plea. It was the angel who tied thee to me. Time is running out. Put hatred to sleep. Shoulder to shoulder, let's water our sheep.
Good evening. It is a great privilege to have the opportunity to say a few words as the Queen's representative about Rudi Leavor, or to give him his proper title with post-nominal, Dr. Rudi Leavor, B.E.M., and I will come back to the B.E.M. in a moment. I first met Rudi some years ago in this very cathedral. I was introduced to him by Bishop Nick Baines, who said, "You need to meet Rudi, he is a legend." I realized immediately that this was an excellent description, and since then I met Rudi on many occasions, often here in Bradford, but also in many other parts of our county. Rudi was an inspirational person who worked tirelessly to promote social cohesion and cooperation and understanding between different faith communities. He was determined that the horrors of the Holocaust would never be forgotten, and every year on Holocaust Memorial Day, he would sing the Jewish morning prayer at events in the 5 districts of West Yorkshire. He had a marvelous singing voice. He was a member of the Leeds Philharmonic Chorus until the age of 94, and I know that anyone who witnessed him singing that prayer will retain a lasting memory. One of my proudest days in this post came in March 2019, when I had the honour of escorting His Royal Highness, the Earl of Wessex, to the Bradford Synagogue, where Rudi had been president for some 25 years. It was a most memorable occasion for everyone who was there, but I will never forget walking down the central aisle and seeing leaders and members of all faiths represented in that congregation. It was an immensely special day for Rudi, and I felt it symbolized everything that he stood for. As will be the case with many other people, I had the very great pleasure of reading Rudi's marvelous memoirs, Berlin to Bradford, during the summer. Jonathan was kind enough to send me a copy, and I read it the same day. The book captures perfectly so many things about Rudi: his amazing life story, his determination to bring together people of different faiths, and the great pride he felt for his home city and district of Bradford and the wider county. It also captures his great devotion to the monarchy and the other institutions that make up our Constitution. He describes his visit to 11 Downing Street to receive the prestigious Active Life Award in 2018, his visit to Buckingham Palace for a royal garden party in 2017, and his delight in being invited to a garden party here in West Yorkshire, hosted by my predecessor, Dame Ingrid Roscoe, at Bowcliffe Hall in 2018. I said I would come back to speak about Rudi's BEM, which he was awarded in the Queen's Birthday Honours 2017 for his work on interfaith relations. His memoirs record the pride he felt, not just at the honour itself, but also the fact that my predecessor, Dame Ingrid, went to present the medal to Rudi at the synagogue here in Bradford as part of a special Hanukkah service so that he could invite his family and friends. This was very typical of Dame Ingrid's kindness, but it was also evidence of the very great respect that she and I had for Rudi and all his achievements. Thank you, Rudi, for enhancing all our lives and for everything you did during so many decades to promote social cohesion and interfaith understanding across the Bradford district and beyond. Rudi, we all feel immensely privileged to have known you. Thank you.
So, good evening and thank you all for coming today. It all started on the 31st of May 1926 in Berlin, Germany, where Rudi Leibowitz, later to become Leavor, was born. Born to Hans and Louise Leibowitz, a dentist and his assistant and housewife. Our father grew up in Berlin for the first 11 years of his life, attending primary school and secondary school. He became brother to his sister, born 4 years after him, affectionately known as Winnie. Maybe at this time in his very young days was where he gained his love of music. He's seen here listening to some classical music, I'm sure. He grew up to be quite a handsome young man, and it was no surprise that there was so much interest in him. He met our mother Marianne in London at a young person's Jewish event, and the rest is, as they say, history. They married in 1955. During the early years of life, both our parents played active roles in many Jewish and other organisations. Here, our father is seen after being presented with the presidentship from the local lodge. We were very fortunate in many ways as young Leavers growing up at home, 76 as it became known. We were helped and supported through school, college and university, and encouraged to participate in numerous extracurricular activities, including school band, Cubs, Scouts, Girl Guides, and for 3 of us, attaining the Gold Duke of Edinburgh's Award. We grew up very happily, enjoying all the benefits of being part of a close-knit and small family, and were also lucky enough to enjoy all 4 grandparents for many years. When our father retired from his career in dentistry, he and our mother did extensive travelling around the world. Here they are at the Taj Mahal in Agra, India, here at the Great Wall of China, here in Jaipur, India, and here by the pyramids of Giza in Egypt.
Our father was very privileged to have met many important and influential people in his lifetime, including Steven Spielberg. He spent a week in Los Angeles as Spielberg's personal guest whilst researching a film about returning refugees to Berlin, later titled The Lost Children of Berlin, and then forming an archive of survivors' stories. In latter years, our parents did not venture so far afield, and I was very happy to be able to bring them on whichever ship I happened to be working on at the time. This was indeed a great perk, and I have to admit, really good of the company that I work for. We cruised to many destinations around Europe, including Israel, where my parents had not been for a long time. Other highlight voyages included visiting the land of the midnight sun, ancient Greece, and other memorable destinations. In mid-2014 to 2015, our dear mother's health started to deteriorate, ending up in a home where Dad would spend considerable time by her side. This was an extremely difficult time for us all. Wheelchair bound, this is one of the last photographs together taken at Anthony's wedding to Jane. From this time on, it appeared that our father became more and more in demand to attend many civic and faith events, usually representing the Jewish community, here seen at a remembrance service. As already mentioned, he was in very high demand for singing the Hebrew morning prayer, El Ma'ale Rachamim, which we will hear him sing later. Cities from around West Yorkshire arranged their Holocaust memorial events around the availability of our father in order that they didn't clash and he could attend them all in turn. I was with him when he was asked to sing this at the National Arboretum Remembrance some years ago. And here he is at Bradford City Hall. Dad was invited to Berlin by the city leaders to be a guest in their city, a gesture given to people who had been forced to escape the city. And subsequent to that, he was invited as a guest by the Jewish Museum in Berlin to visit on numerous occasions, where he was requested to speak to the German youth of his family's experiences around his escape from Nazi Germany. Pleased to say that many of the valuable family heirlooms have since been donated to this museum. Both Anthony and I accompanied him on such trips, and we were both touched by the way the students embraced his stories and the many inquisitive questions that they were always asked. He always took the opportunity of visiting his old school when in Berlin and was warmly welcomed by the head and other teachers. And the bottom right-hand picture there is a picture he was showing me where he grew up in Berlin. Perhaps his greatest achievement was being awarded the British Empire Medal in 2017 for his services to interfaith, synagogue and Holocaust work in and around Bradford. He took every opportunity on formal occasions to wear his medal with pride. We were all so very proud of him, and just sad that our mother did not live to see this. As part of the award, he was invited to a garden party at Buckingham Palace, as well as similar events in Bramham, the official residence of the Lord Lieutenant of West Yorkshire, Her Majesty's representative here in the county. Caroline and Deborah both accompanied him respectively. Another award, only a week or so later, Dad was proud to receive the Sir Sigmund Sternberg Foundation and the Times Award, presented at a ceremony at number 11 Downing Street. Here he is sneaking a quick photograph in front of number 10. This award is about recognizing high achievers in later life. As we've already heard, in March 2019, our father was proud to be part of the royal visit to the Bradford Synagogue, where His Royal Highness the Prince Edward was visiting to learn about his work and the Stroud family and its 6 generations of people involved with the synagogue. As we've also heard, the book, this time last year, just in time, saw the publishing of his long-awaited book, Berlin to Bradford. This had been in the works for a long time, but the pandemic and the associated lockdown expedited the book to its conclusion. He was so pleased when it required a second print run. So much in demand was the book. And here you can see one very important person who enjoyed the read. Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson, for sharing this photo. As we know and have heard, music was one of his greatest passions. He composed, sang, and performed music under many different guises. He was particularly proud of his association with the Leeds Philharmonic Chorus, of which he was a member for nearly 50 years. He was proudly awarded a certificate recognizing his service, which only came to an end when he had to stay home to look after our mother. And here he is receiving his long service certificate. Dad was never happier than when surrounded by his family, especially his 8 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. The synagogue organised a special service to celebrate his 95th birthday, where I have to say his voice was still in absolute top form, and he was presented with this, in his words, magnificent cake. Now, many of you here this evening and watching around the world, as I know there are, will know much about the 4 children, but we wanted to share a quick brief of the grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
This is Louis, who recently joined Her Majesty's Prison Service. James is a heart paramedic who is based in the southwest of England. Rebecca is an early years practitioner based locally in a private nursery. Daniel is a goods vehicle mechanic and driver based in Shipley. Alex, based in Baildon, is an activities coordinator in a dementia care home.
And this is David, also currently working for Her Majesty's Prison Service based at Armley Jail in Leeds. However, his true vocation has always been to join the police service. And I'm pleased, in fact proud to say, that he has been successful in the selection process, having passed all his tests, interviews, medicals, and whatever else was required, and is just awaiting word from the West Yorkshire Police for a start date, which we anticipate to be in the new year.
Sophie is in year 13 at Bingley Grammar School, studying A-level math, further maths, geography, and biology. Oliver is also at Bingley Grammar School and is currently in year 10. Isabel is 4 years old and has just started school at Stocks Lane Primary School. And Arlo is the youngest member of the family at just 20 months.
Our father will be remembered fondly in many ways by so many people. And one way he was often referred to, if seen driving around town by a friend, was, "I saw ROL 4 today." He was easily recognizable in this way by everyone, including the old-fashioned traffic wardens. Dad was an amazing person who has earned his place in history as one of those true greats. Here he was at his happiest just a short time before his passing, celebrating his 95th birthday surrounded by family. Finally, two of the most gracious tributes were from his beloved Telegraph and Argus and the Times newspapers, both of which he read from cover to cover every day of his life until the end. Their tributes would have made him so proud. Thank you, and I'd just like to play a very short musical montage.
I wish that heaven had visiting hours, so I could just show up and bring the news that she's getting older. And I wish that you'd met her, the things that she'll learn from me, I got them all from you. And I just stay a while and we'll put all the world to rights. The little ones will grow and I'll still drink your favorite wine. Soon they're going to close, but I'll see you another day. So much has changed since you've been away. Well, I wish that heaven visiting hours, so I could just swing by and ask your advice. What would you do in my situation? I haven't a clue how I'd even raise them. What would you do? 'Cause you'd always do what's right. We just took a while until my worries disappeared. I'll tell you that I'm scared of turning out a failure. You'd say, remember that the answer's in the love that we create. So much has changed since you've been away. If I could take you home, but I know what they say, that it's for the best. So I will live life the way you taught me and make it on my own. Well, I will close the door and I will open up my heart, and everyone I love will know exactly who you are. 'Cause this is not goodbye, it is just till we meet again. So much has changed since you've been away.
Thank you for that wonderful tribute to your father's life. I'm sure he'll be very proud of that. Thank you. Lord Lieutenant, distinguished guest, friends, good afternoon. As we go about our lives, there are people who make an instant impression on us, and there are those who make a lasting impression. Few people manage to do both, but I am pleased to say Rudi was certainly one of that very rare breed. I had the huge pleasure of meeting him on a number of occasions, and the impression left was an indelible one. As we all remember Rudi with love and affection this afternoon, we will rightly recall his great passions in life, his unflagging energy, and the wonderful work he so freely did for the betterment of our communities. His devotion to the synagogue and his commitment to its future is well known to us all, and it is perhaps only matched by his zeal for promoting peace, harmony and concord throughout the different faiths and communities who make up our great district. For me, it was that very interfaith work which marked him out as a truly special person. Rudi was one of life's gifted natural communicators. You either have that or you don't. I really don't feel it's something which can be taught. With Rudi, it was completely innate. Rudi's abundant personal charm was played no small part in his ability to create an instant rapport with whomever he spoke to. Few who had the pleasure of meeting him could remain immune to his very special brand of old worm charm and elegance. I feel certain that his charismatic demeanour must surely have put many a nervous dental patient at complete ease over his long and successful career. Rudi's early years were marked by the family having to uproot themselves from their home in Berlin during the rise of the Nazis. They resettled in Britain with Rudi's father, also a dentist, establishing a practice in Bradford. I feel that his act of upheaval and displacement during such a dark period lit the deep-seated desire within Rudi to ensure that he played his part in building on Bradford's fine tradition of welcoming all who make this city and district their home. It was his way of giving something back, and as ever with Rudi, he did it his own imitable way and in great style. Nor did Rudi forget his own roots. He visited Berlin many, many times and donated family artefacts to the city's Jewish museum. Thankfully, he also captured his fascinating life story in his published memoirs, Berlin to Bradford. Many members of Rudi's family were killed during the war years. The teacher who inspired his lifelong love of music perished in Auschwitz. Rudi passionately wanted the bitter lessons of the Holocaust to be passed to future generations, and it was an honour to see him talking to children and young people and bringing the pages of a history book to vivid life for them. The great communicator at work. Rudi's loss is very keenly felt by us all. Our lives have been touched by him, and we treasure the individual memories we all hold. His love of his family, of music, of his fellow men and women. His careless work to promote harmony and understanding and to build a better world. These things form the legacy he leaves behind. There are a few people of Rudi's stature and significance. We are proud to have called him a friend, and prouder still, a fellow Bradfordian. We are all very grateful for his life, which was as remarkably well lived as it was fruitful. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Jonathan and Richard, for giving us the opportunity to say a few words here as friends of Rudi. A very long and celebrated life of 95 years. My story started 10 years ago. You will all be aware of the headlines that went around the world back in 2013. Headline: Muslims save Bradford's last remaining synagogue. For me, it was a very small gesture of supporting my fellow human. And in Islam, giving should be performed without anyone knowing but God. But on this occasion, Rudi had other ideas. He wanted to share the story with the world, and my God, he did. From the TNA to the Guardian to the Times, that is New York Times, and even the Times of Israel covered the story. It just went on and on. As well as being excellent at media relations, he was also great at people's relations. He had a soft heart, and he was a caring soul. 5 years ago, when my mother was severely ill in hospital, and I was camped there with her, Rudi would turn up to the hospital to be with me. He would give me moral support. And at the end, when my mum was passing away, he asked if I could join him at her bedside to say a private prayer. A moment I will never forget. He always remembered special occasions, especially religious festivals and events. At time of Ramadan, he would deliver a box of dates to the family home, as well as sending us Eid cards twice a year. This is not just something I experienced as a Muslim in the community, but he would do the same for our Sikh and Hindu friends as well. He remembered the Diwali, he would remember the Vaisakhi, and all the other festivals in between. It's also befitting today marks the start of Interfaith Week. As we remember Rudi, on behalf of our faith communities, I would like to say, my dear Rudi, you will be sadly missed by us all. And we thank you for the love and respect you gave us over the years. May you rest in peace, my friend.
Just to be clear, I'm not Lawrence Saffer. I aspire to be, but I'm not. But we have swapped, I think appropriately, Lawrence, because I think to finish with the rabbinic tale and the Kaddish is actually very, very fitting. But I have to be on a train to London, so I will need to leave promptly. About 3 years ago, I was in Vienna. When I got back, I bumped into Rudi at an event in which I described to him the renewed shock of having visited the Judenplatz at night with the Rachel White-Reed Memorial to the Holocaust, the inverted library, the books. Google it when you get home, Rachel White-Reed and the Judenplatz in Vienna. And what is remarkable is not just the memorial itself, but if you turn round and face the other way, about 30 feet behind it is the statue of Lessing. And the question, how does a culture go from Lessing and the Enlightenment to the horrors of the Holocaust within just a handful of generations? It's staggering. And one of the things that Rudi derived from this was the fact that you can never take civility, even civilization, for granted. Democracy is fragile, and it's in the greatest danger when you think that it's secure. Rudi was a man I spoke to a lot. I did a lot of work in Germany, often in Berlin, in Austria, and we would always talk about the experience and what lay behind it. But Rudi was a man of love, of compassion, and deep integrity. I haven't got a great love of dentistry, but one thing I do know about dentists, certainly of the generation when I was growing up, is that they had a propensity to spot any gap and then fill it, or even to create a hole and fill it. And I remember saying to Rudi, the thing about dentistry is perhaps a good image of how we have to handle the culture of which we are a part, that we don't leave gaps in the memory, but equally, we don't just stuff stuff into it to avoid the reality that that gap represented, thinking particularly of the Holocaust and what happened in Germany and beyond. Rudi was someone who didn't live with pretense, but was very keen that the generations coming up behind him should also not be romanticized by the past, but should be able to face the past with courage, but without illusion. You know that phrase, to disillusion people without leaving them disillusioned. That's my memory of a friend in Bradford in West Yorkshire who gave time, love, compassion, and himself to his colleagues and his fellow faith leaders. His memory is for a blessing. That goes without saying. Rudi was a man of confident humility in his faith, in his community, and in his story. And that is why he will not be forgotten.
Psalm 92 is sung in the synagogues on the Sabbath. And one verse says, "The righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon." And Tanchuma ben Abba, a rabbi of the 4th century, commented, and he asked, why are the righteous compared to these two trees and not to other trees? Because in the case of trees generally, one cannot say from a distance, this is such and such a tree, because they are short of stature and hence indistinguishable. But the palm and the cedar, being tall of stature, are visible from afar. Thus the righteous are discerned and distinguished a long way off. In the rabbinic literature of the Midrash, it says that the psalm, when once uprooted, cannot be replaced. Even so it is with the righteous. Once dead, their places can no more be filled. Rudi Leavor, his Hebrew name, Raphael ben Tzvi. There is another midrash that says of Moses and Aaron that when they came and stood before Pharaoh, they seemed to resemble the ministering angels. Their tall stature was like the cedars of Lebanon, the sockets of their eyes like the spheres of the sun, their beards like the clusters of a palm tree, the glow of their faces like the splendor of the sun, and their speech like a flaming fire. Apart from the beard comparison, I detect something of Rudi in that picture. He who lived with a good name and he who died with a good name. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. May Rudi's memory be a blessing for us forever.
I would now like to introduce Grandpa singing the El Maleh Rachman, the Hebrew morning prayer, which he sang so beautifully around the county on many occasions, followed by the Brahms lullaby. Whenever Grandpa sang this lullaby, he always told the audience that whilst singing it, he liked to think of the 6 million Jews who died in the Holocaust, that they did not really die, but are merrily asleep. The words written by Grandpa in both German and English are loosely based on the originals.
Buchenwald, Treblinka, Dachau, Sachsenhausen, Bergen-Belsen, Auschwitz, Evi, Dani, Edi, Berta, Yitzchak, Affenkraut, Shehaloko Leolamam, Anna, die Rehem besete, Kenaficha, Leolamim, Utzeror bitro hachayim et nishmatehem, Adonai hu nachalatam, V'yanuchu b'shalom, al mishkatehem, V'noma, V'noma,
Guten Abend, gute Nacht, von Gott bewacht. Schlafe gut und träume süß von Zucker und Anis. Mach die Augen nun zu, dass du ewig hast Ruh. Mach die Augen nun zu, dass du ewig hast Ruh. My child, as you dream of sugar and spice, sleep well that you dream of all things nice. Close your eyes now and dream that you always have peace. Close your eyes now and dream that you always have peace.
Yes, and just to confirm, I'm not Bishop Nick, and I don't aspire to be him. The last time a Jewish person was head of the church was Jesus, and things didn't end so well for him. So I'm grateful I am who I am. Lord Lieutenants, distinguished guests, friends, and most importantly, the family. And what a wonderful family. I don't have an enviable task. An hour and 10 minutes of wonderful stories about Rudi, followed by refreshments, and I'm in the middle. But it's an honour for me, and it's an honour for the community that the Cathedral has graciously been offered for this venue, for this Thanksgiving gathering. And it's a testament to all the positive work Rudi did, that so many of us are here to give thanks. The rabbis tell the story that one day God heard the angels debating. So God asked, "What are you debating?" The angels said, "We're debating which letter of the Hebrew alphabet is the most important." The first angel said Aleph is the most important because it's the first letter, and without it there's nothing to follow. The second said Bet is the most important because it's the first letter in the Torah and the first letter of the first word, which is Bereshit, which means in the beginning. Each letter had its advocate. When they'd all had their say, God said, "It's easy. The most important letter is the sixth letter, Vav." "Why?" said the angels. "Because Vav means and." Rudi was the epitome of and. There is a problem, and what is the solution? There is an event, and who can we include? There is a newcomer, and how can we welcome them and make them feel at home? We've heard much about Rudi's extraordinary life and how he shared his experiences for the benefit of others. The synagogue was at the heart of much of what he did for many decades. It was his wish that it continues after his passing. And I am here to tell you that we will continue with our Sabbath services and play a full part in the civic and religious life in the region, and welcome schools on visits to our synagogue, and visit schools to talk about our religion, and support and provide speakers for Holocaust Memorial Day, and support Remembrance Sunday, and lay a wreath as we have today, and engage with and support all of the faith communities in the region, and support the values we share, and respect the dignity of our differences. And we shall continue to challenge extremism wherever it occurs. And we will seek to promote a deeper understanding for our teenagers of events happening thousands of miles away, over which none of us have the slightest control. And we will remind the authorities that their function is not to act as a mouthpiece for the mighty, but to provide a safe and welcoming space for the minority. Rudi spent his life seeking tolerance and respect. He shared his experience of the Holocaust so it may not be forgotten and others may learn. He was sad that so many civic and faith leaders are still having to try to eradicate the anti-Semitic poison that was injected through ignorance or intent into our lives, and that it was on the back of an event that began here in Bradford that Jews in London were the subject of appalling anti-Semitic abuse only a month before he passed away. Rudi would have loved to see Bradford selected as the 2025 City of Culture. We've heard much about his love of music, and how many people can say that 2 choirs are here to sing in his honour? Nobody would come for me, believe me. 2 choirs, amazing. He would have loved it. Bradford is unique on the shortlisted applicants in having a functioning synagogue and active Jewish community. Our hope is that the damage that's been caused by certain events in recent years to the city's reputation will not undermine the events that everybody has put their heart and soul in over so many years. All of us have come today to give thanks for Rudi's life and the way he lived it. And actions and not flowery words are the greatest testament to that memory. And so I invite you to see the exhibition on my left of pictures of Jewish life in Bradford, most of which feature Rudi. The title of the exhibition is Kehillah, which means community or congregation. The Bradford Jewish community is very much a part of the Bradford community of communities, and so the exhibition is about a part of all of us. And finally, it's traditional to say the mourner's prayer to celebrate God and seek to raise the soul of the departed to its resting place in heaven. This has a special poignancy for me, as despite the many claims of people to have known Rudi the longest, I think that apart from his sister Winnie, my dad might have won the argument, because they met at Leeds Dental School in 1945. When Rudi came for dinner about 4 years ago, Sally and I ended up being waiters and watching these 2 nonagenarians as they were, debating latest dental techniques, how things have changed, what lectures were like. These 2 men with minds as sharp as pins. It was wonderful seeing them reminiscing about life, love, studies, careers, and most importantly to both of them, their love for their families. My mum told me yesterday that the first time she met Rudi was when my father brought her on the second date to an event in Bradford, organised, I believe, by Rudi's parents to raise money for one of the Jewish institutions. The mind boggles as to what would happen, because Mum said that Rudi was a very engaging man. Fortunately, Rudi was married and Mum was on a date, so I'd hate to think what would happen if there hadn't have been. Rudi passed away in July, and unfortunately my father passed away in October. On behalf of both of the families, and with leave of the Deputy Lord Mayor, the City of Bradford, it's my privilege to say Kaddish for them both. And as it's Remembrance Sunday, you may also wish to have in mind those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. They both served in the armed forces, they were both veterans, and I know they both attended many remembrance services over the years in memory of those who lost their lives. And we also pay tribute and remember those who've lost their lives during the recent pandemic. This is, I think, one of the first gatherings so many people have had a chance to come together to pay their respects. And so it's not just on behalf of Rudi, and I've discussed with Jonathan, and he's happy for me to do this, to share the Kaddish, personally with my father, but also on behalf of the city with those who have given the ultimate sacrifice and given their lives for the pandemic. So I'm going to ask those of you who are able to rise, will I recite the Kaddish prayer. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemer Rabba, bi'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'imachon v'chayedech al Beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei shemer Rabba v'varach li'lam olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitzpa'ah v'yitramam v'yitnasei. V'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shemei d'kudisha b'richu. Le'elam in kabechata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran bi'alma v'yimru Amen. Yehei shlam Rabba min Shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Ose shalom v'imamav, hu ya'asa shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. You can now be seated. Once again, I'd like to thank all involved in the cathedral for their support today and allowing Bradford to celebrate the life of a man who came from Berlin in the fear of his life, made Bradford his home, and contributed so much to the life of the city. If you'd be kind enough to allow the family and dignitaries to lead us to the entrance of the synagogue, of the cathedral, of the cathedral, it's a slip of the tongue, I do apologise. I wish our synagogues were as big and as full as this is, but there we go. If you could allow the dignitaries and the family to lead us to the entrance of the cathedral, and I'd like to invite you to join us in the Jewish tradition of always having refreshments. Thank you.